Welcome, Hoop fans. I'm K Rose, and this is an episode of the Hoop Fans Podcast. My co host, Matt Seip, and myself are both former Hoopers, both at the collegiate and professional levels, and we both breathe, eat, and sleep NBA basketball. The purpose of this podcast is to speak about the league, its teams, and the players from the perspective of a true hoop fan. Okay, barbershop debates, weekly recaps, nostalgic convos, trade rumors, predictions, you name it, we're going to have it here at the Hoop Fans Podcast. This episode, me and my guy Matt are discussing the true contenders of the 2023-2024 season, our top two teams to watch so far. We both name one player that we're sticking by no matter what, no matter the narrative, and we debate whether or not Penny Hardaway or Vince Carter deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Lock in. Let's get it. I'm Hoop Fans Podcast, episode 1. Let's get right into it, bro. We're about at the halfway mark of the season of the 2023-2024 NBA season. And I want to know, Matt, who are the true contenders so far in the 2023-2024 season to you right now? And before you get started, I want you to answer, do you define a contender in the NBA
Mhm.
today?
No, for sure. I got 4 teams in mind, bro. Boston,
Okay.
um, Denver,
Okay.
I'm gonna say Milwaukee, and the Clippers. That's in my eyes, bro, those are the 4 most dominant squads right now.
How do you define? So you gave me the teams. How do you
Yeah.
define a contender in your opinion?
Yeah, man. So, a true title contender in my eyes. A top team in the regular season, obviously, that can kick it up a notch, come playoff time. You know, a team that's obviously pretty dominant in the regular season. You know, come playoff time, they have everybody firing on all cylinders.
Okay.
And I think a year prior, they have to either knock on a door, in terms of Western Conference Finals or making the finals, right? So, but typically it's you know teams that are good for a couple years,
Okay.
right? And that's a contender to me.
So that's how you define a contender, basically saying like, okay, like a progression from the previous season. So like we kind of see the arc of a team, like they're progressing and progressing. So I understand that type of logic. For me, if I believe as a fan, if I believe you have a reasonable enough chance to compete and advance to a conference finals, I look at you as a contender.
Hmm.
Because obviously, if you make the Western Conference Finals or you make the Eastern Conference Finals, that means you were a top 4 team
Hmm.
result wise that season. And to
Yeah,
me, you're a
absolutely.
contender. So if you have a chance to make the conference finals off rip, I say you're a contender, right? When I think about every team in the NBA and I think can they contend, number one, I think of this. Number one, does your superstar or your best player consistently raise his level of play when it matters most, right?
Hmm.
So that's one thing I look at as far as every team. When I try to think of can they win it all? Does
Hmm.
your superstar either remain at his level of play or just raise his level of play come playoff time? Right. Number two, I say, can one of your stars or is one of your superstars an elite pull up jump shooter? Because I think in the playoffs, obviously, Matt, you already know the game slows down.
Hmm.
Baskets don't come as easy. You need somebody, one of the stars on the team, to be able to hit tough knockdown jump shots,
Hmm.
contested jump shots, because that's what a lot of times what teams give you in the playoffs. You're not going to get a lot of easy open shots, easy layups. Defenses ratchet up. Refs allow more physical play. So if you don't have a star that's an elite pull-up jump shooter, it's very, very hard to win it all or be really considered a contender. And lastly, I say this: how many two-way role players does the team have? Two-way role players, and the reason I say that is because this. Obviously, we know come playoff time, teams have the ability to scout or they lock in and focus on their opponent for that round, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of times, what they do is this: when it comes to role players or even the stars, you're going to have the best offensive players out there on the floor a lot of times, and they're going to pinpoint and try to match up with the weakest defenders on the other team when they're on offense. So if you have guys who are not two-way players, or if you have a lot of guys that are able to be pinpointed, matched up against, and they have to go against the best offensive players on the other team, and they're a
Hmm.
weak defender, that spells trouble in the playoffs. So those are the three criteria for me. Does your superstar raise his play? Is one of your stars an elite pull-up jump shooter? And how many two-way role players do you have? When I
Mhm.
look at those three things, that kind of influences my mindset on whether or not they can win the whole thing. So let's get into it. Let's go off. You gave us your teams already. So which one
Mhm.
would you like to talk about first, bro?
Boy, let's start with the Clippers, bro.
Ooh,
I
boy.
think we both know that how elite they are. We're both big fans of a lot of the players on their team. Um, Bro, I think they have it. I think they're catching their stride like at the perfect moment. We're hitting All-Star break in a month,
Okay.
halfway point of the season. Early on there was a lot of question marks regarding James Harden and how he would fit in and moving Russ to the bench. But you mentioned, you know, two lockdown defenders. I mean they have two,
Kawhi Leonard.
they have more than two. They have Powell, Terrence Mann. Russ can lock up when he wants to. So I mean there's four or five just right there we named. Um, I think Ty Lue, bro, he has the experience. He's been there, he's done that. I think, bro, they have the recipe. I really do. And they got knockdown shooters, of course. So literally, they have everything. They encompass everything that you mentioned. Um, and I mean, bro, health is going to be their biggest thing. If they can stay healthy, I think it's theirs. I really do. What about you?
Well, all right. So speaking of the Clippers, right? So those were you said the Clippers. Who was your other one in the West?
Denver.
You put okay. So you said Denver,
Yeah.
Clippers, and who was your two in the East? The Celtics and the
Uh,
Bucks.
yep.
Okay, so starting with the Clippers, right? I agree, bro. I really think they have a shot, and it's interesting to see how many media figures have to kind of eat their words after the initial record that they have when the James Harden trade happened, right? Because I
Yep.
believe the Clippers they went 0-6 after that James Harden trade when he was playing with them. But now they're like they've been cooking teams like hooping, hooping, hooping. And I agree, bro. I think they have a real shot to win it all because number one, if I'm just going off my criteria that I just gave, Kawhi Leonard,
Hmm.
he's their best player, you would say, right?
For sure.
That I feel like some fans, because they're stands of guys like Paul George, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, it can kind of get lost a little bit. But Kawhi Leonard is clearly the best player on the Clippers, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And we know him to only raise his level of play come playoff time, right? Like, and at his best, which he has been this season,
Hmm.
he's probably a top five, maybe even top three player at his best in the
Hmm.
NBA.
I agree, bro.
So they have that, right? Then you look at the fact that, like I said, you go with the two-way role players or just two-way players in general. Paul George,
Hmm.
reputation as a good defender, great offensive player. James Harden, not so much. So he's somebody in come playoff time, he will be targeted, but he will make up for it with his playmaking and his shot making on the offensive end, right? You got Terrence Mann, who I like, who has just started to kind of find his stride, knocking down three pointers.
Hmm.
6'5", plays bigger than his position, rebounds, great defender. Who else? Oh, then you got Zubac.
Hmm.
Well, I think it's like super underrated, super underrated as a big man. He's having an amazing season since James Harden has come because James Harden has kind of unlocked him on offense in the pick and roll. He's giving him easy buckets. If he hits Zubac in the short roll, he's finding the open man or he's finishing at the rim.
Lob
And
threat. Yeah.
he's a lob threat, and he's also a great rim protector. Like he's having a really good season contesting shots at the rim. So he's another two-way player. Then you got the guys that you named off the bench, Norm Powell. Not so much a defender at all, but he's the microwave, bro. He's a microwave, and I
Bro.
think he has to be considered for six man of the year.
You think so?
Yes, because he's shooting
Yeah.
the ball very well. So saying all that, bro, I agree. They're definitely a contender just based off all my criteria that I go off of. And they're rolling right now, like you said, a month from All-Star break. It I can only really see the Denver Nuggets. Like they're gonna have trouble with the Denver Nuggets as
Hmm.
currently constructed. That was your other team that you considered a contender for the season, right? In the West.
Yeah. Yep.
So you don't. So let me say this then. You don't. Who? Because we're gonna get into this a little bit later. Our fake contenders. Who did you have in mind for a fake contender?
Bro, there's a couple.
I
Yeah.
didn't know you had OKC as a.
No, they're not fake contender to me.
Okay. Okay.
They
Okay.
would be like, bro, if there's a word or if there's a category for, I mean, it is. It's just up and coming. I think that they're like right on the cusp of contending. They just
Okay.
need a little bit more experience together.
Got you. Oh, got you.
They have the pieces. They're obviously very young. They just need that experience, but they're knocking on the door for sure.
Okay.
But Minnesota, bro, fake contender right off the bat. I'm just gonna say it point
Number
blank.
one in the West?
Bro. Yes,
Talk to me. Why?
they
Why do
are
you
fake
consider the
contenders.
Timberwolves a fake contender, bro? Tell me why. Because
Last
Minnesota
year,
at
what were
their
they last year? They were probably, I think, anywhere from like five. Were they a 5, 6 seed last year? Um, Key contributors, obviously, AE, Gobert, and Towns. But other than that, bro, it's just, Conley, Nas Reed.
Nas
You know,
Reed, Rudy Gobert,
they're
Cat.
kind of in that same boat, bro, inexperienced. But I just don't have faith in them. Um, I don't. I mean, maybe I'll eat my words here a little bit. We'll see in a couple months, but I just don't have faith in them, bro. I think it's a fake number one seed, similar to that.
Really?
That was a 14-15 Hawks team. Very similar, bro.
Really? Wow. So you don't even, it's not that. So here's the thing. You're saying fake contender, but you feel kind of strongly about this. Like
I do. I
you
do,
feel
bro.
very strongly. So just to clarify, last season they were eighth in the West. They were 42 and
Oh,
40.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
Now we do have to give them some slack a little bit because last year Cat was out for the majority of the season or for a very large portion of the season with an injury. Right after the Rudy Gobert trade. So they didn't really have a full team for a long period of time last season. Here's the thing. I it's tough with the Timberwolves. I don't consider them a fake contender. I would have them in my list of contenders, right?
For real. Okay.
And again, based off my criteria, it's if you can make a conference finals that I consider you a
Right.
contender for the season. Now, maybe I'm off because I don't necessarily know if they can win it all, if
Mm-hmm.
they can win the whole thing, right? And I say that because of this. I think their defense is amazing. They're huge. They're huge. You
They
know,
are.
when you start a team with Mike Conley is good. He's a heady point guard, but he's not a big point guard. But you go into Ant, 6'4" ish, probably like 230, ox strong. And when
Mhm.
he decides to play defense and he ratchets up his intensity, he can play defense. He's a good defender. Then you got somebody who I rock with, and he part of the skinny hooper committee, man. You know what I'm saying? Because that's who I was. My boy Jaden, that's Jaden McDaniels, right?
Yeah, yeah. I forgot about him.
Tough, bro. Very, very tough. He looked like KD as far as body wise, obviously not the game, but he's a great defender as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Cat, not the greatest defender, but that entire team, that starting five, is anchored by Rudy Gobert, one of the best rim protectors in the league, one of the best
Mm-hmm.
defenders in the league, 3-time defensive player of the year. So I say all this to say they're going to be able to play defense. Their offense to me is what would give me pause because you're starting two bigs, right? And are you taking away from what makes Cat a great player in terms of always having him on the perimeter because
Mm-hmm.
he's out there with Rudy Gobert. He's a great shooter, especially for a big man. Arguably the
For
best
sure.
big man shooter in the league, right? If we're going off of just his recent history. But if you don't allow him to be able to post up because you already have Rudy on the floor and he can't stretch the floor and defense are going to sag off Rudy,
Mm-hmm.
you take away from what makes Cat great, and you take away from what makes from what makes Ant-Man great because he always have to settle for pull-up jump shots versus being able to attack the basket and get to the rim because those two big guys are out there. So their offense is what will give me pause to if they can win it all, but I still might have them as a contender based on my definition.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I can see that argument for sure. When you talk about Cat's ability to stretch the floor, bro, it's like they essentially run like a 4-out-1 in with Gobert down low. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And he doesn't have really offensive ability, but he can get offensive rebounds. He can get putbacks, all that. But I don't know. I don't have confidence in them. No, you said I feel strongly about them, but another team I feel like is a fake contender is Philly. And they have
Oh,
proved this point, bro, for years. 4 to 5 years they've been that fake contender where, consistently throughout the regular season they show win streaks, power rankings are always there. Always the top of the Eastern Conference. But, Embiid's never stepping up in the playoffs. He's not really getting that much help either. I mean, Tobias Harris, um, isn't a consistent knockdown shooter. Like you mentioned that criteria. So, like, I think Maxi's their biggest contributor right now. I think he's the most important piece. And obviously Nick Nurse is like that level-headed coach, bro. He's been there. He has a chip.
Won a championship. He's won a
He's huge,
championship.
bro. I think him and Maxey, obviously it's one's on the floor, one's coaching, X's and O's, but um, I think those are the two outliers, bro, for this team to really take it there if they want to. But I don't have faith in them either. Um, but what are your thoughts on Philly,
So honestly, bro, you took my whole answer because here's the thing, bro.
bro? Right,
Yeah,
blasphemous.
The Sixers, bro, they're a fake contender to me. And they're a fake contender in the truest sense of the phrase, bro, because they have a lot of good momentum, right?
Hmm.
They make the James Harden trade. This was this season. It's crazy how time is flying. This was this season. They make the James Harden trade, and they get back a lot of solid role players, a lot of solid older wings, right? And they go on a run because currently, I believe the Sixers are at the time of this recording, the Sixers are 24-13, the third in the East, so they're having a good season.
Yeah, no doubt.
Embiid's having a monster season. So all right, so yeah, so Embiid having an amazing MVP season. He probably, if not for games missed, you probably still have to consider him now currently the front runner for the MVP,
Mhm.
averaging 34.6 points a game, 11.8 rebounds, and 6 assists at the time of its recording. So
Just here, bro. That's like,
it's amazing. And I mean, you have Tyrese Maxey averaging about 26 points a game, having an
mhm,
amazing season as well. This will probably be his first season as an all-star. So
mhm.
all that being said, right, I'm giving him positive things right now. I consider them a fake contender because of this, based on just my criteria, what I go off of. Joel Embiid, amazing numbers that I just said. But when has he ever elevated his game in the postseason?
Bro,
There's
I
no
can't
time.
remember a time. I cannot remember a time. Like,
There's never been a time, bro.
yeah,
Never
like
been a time. Now, Philly fans might retort, and I might have to give some leeway to this. How many healthy postseasons has Embiid ever had? Maybe one.
2017, 18 year, I think.
It, I know this. He was healthy for that season in the bubble, but Ben Simmons was hurt. So
Mhm,
I believe they got swept by Boston. He was healthy pretty much for that series in 2019 against the Raptors, where they
mhm.
got beaten 7 games and he didn't perform up to his expectations. I say all this to say this: we really haven't had many postseasons where Embiid, despite these amazing MVP numbers so far this season, has remained at his level of play or elevated it when it matters most.
No,
So, so number one, that's a huge, huge strike for me as a contender, right? The second option that I go off with my criteria, do they have an elite pull-up jump shooter? And I think we can consider Tyrese Maxey maybe not an elite pull-up jump shooter. He's a decent pull-up jump shooter. And he's a scorer. Like he can
mhm.
heat up quickly. So I wouldn't be too worried about that as well as Embiid. They both can hit shots and score. But then you look at the rest of the roster as currently constructed,
That's just not it.
it's just not it, bro. It's
Yeah,
not it. Eh, First of all, how many two-way role players do they have?
Melton and Batum, bro. That's all I can really.
Melton
And
and
maybe Paul
Batum?
Reed. Maybe Paul Reed.
No. Hell
You know,
no, bro. Hell no, hell no. And people that know me, homies that know me, I
B-Ball
have
Paul. You
I,
don't
I
like
have
him?
I have nothing against B-ball Paul,
That's crazy.
but he's not a two-way player, bro. He now maybe I don't know about his defense so much. Offensively, there's no way we're calling him a two-way player. It's just no way. It's no way. It's
We
no
can
way at all.
call. Yeah, yeah. We could just like,
He's okay. He's okay, but he's not two-way.
yeah.
He's not somebody that you're going to be relying. You should be relying on in the playoffs. No way, no
No,
how.
absolutely not. No, 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 no. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No. So, and here's the thing, Oubre, I like Oubre. He's having a
Forgot
good
about him.
season, but I don't know. We got to see how that translates. But he may be somebody we can throw in a two-way thing. So I say all this to say this, bro. For them to win a championship, we didn't even mention Tobias because
Right.
Tobias might have 31 game,
Hmm.
and then the next game he has 4 points.
Yeah, bro. It's Tobias Harris's name should be next to inconsistent in the dictionary, bro. Like that's him. Like in a
That's truly
nutshell.
him.
Like that is. I mean, I think like Friday night was his first time in his career, and he's been in the league since like 2011 that he had back-to-back 30-point games. And if you go down his statistics, bro, he's averaged like 19, 20 a game for about 5, 6 years. So I mean, that spells it out right there. Like,
Tobias is
um,
just okay. He's okay.
yes,
Not
bro.
not not a great defender, like you said, we don't know what he'll bring offensively each game, and I don't think he's good enough to be the third player on the championship team. And we've seen that already. Like he's not. You need someone better to be your third player on it if you are really looking to win a championship. Like you
Mhm,
said, as of this recording, the last two games he scored 30 points. He had 32 against the Hawks, and then he had 37 against the Kings on January 12th.
mhm.
But to get those 30 points, he shot a lot of shots, 24 shots, 25 shots. He won't get those shots playing next to Embiid and Tyrese. So I don't think we're seeing an offensive explosion or a turnaround for Tobias Harris. I just think he's taking advantage of the fact that Embiid hasn't played these last few games. So I say all this to say,
Yeah.
bro, I don't believe in the Sixers. We're looking at potential playoff matchups for them. Do we have them beating the Bucks?
No.
I wouldn't.
Nope. They have
I
way too
wouldn't.
much firepower. Still, they still. I mean, even with this Dame move, I still think they're in good hands.
Who's
I still
guarding Giannis?
nobody, bro. Nobody. I mean, they can try. They can try to throw bodies at him, but
Who's guarding Dame?
Melton. But I mean, he's still gonna get his. You know what I mean? He's still gonna get his.
It's not enough, bro. And then and then
Yeah.
and then you also have to look at Chris Middleton. And then on the flip side, if you're thinking of the Bucks, even though their defense is kind of weak,
Mhm.
you have a Brook Lopez to throw on Embiid to see if he can slow him down.
Mhm.
With Giannis maybe roaming, you know what I mean? So you have certain things where, to me, for the Sixers to win a championship, Embiid and Tyrese would have to play exceptionally well. And I really, even as good as they're played this season, I can't see them beating
Mm-mm.
either Boston or the Bucks in the second round. And like I said, if you can't make, if I don't think you can reasonably make a Eastern Conference Finals, I can't consider you contender. So they're a fake contender for me, for sure.
It's a hot take, bro. But I think a team like the New York Knicks could match up well with them, and we saw them blow them out. You know what I mean? They have 1 through 5. They have arguably, you know what I mean? They match up well. I think Hartenstein with the Knicks, bro. He showed me some things when he was guarding Embiid. I mean, Embiid still got his 30 and whatever, 30 and 10, but
So to be clear, I was at that game, bro. I was at that game. They played the Knicks on January 5th. And first of all, let's just say that OG and an OB trade with the Raptors, he's
major.
been he's been playing really well since he's arrived in New York. And when I was at the game, bro, they had and however you want to say it, no answer for Jalen Brunson, bro. Like he was playing amazing.
Yeah.
Tyrese, you don't want Tyrese Maxey on him.
Uh-uh.
Melton didn't play that game, and Pat Bev had some success trying to contain him. He did. He
Mhm.
did. Pat Bev is known for that. But they had no answer for Jalen Brunson. And we saw
Mhm.
the difference. Even though they don't have Mitchell Robinson, like you said, Hardenstein played pretty well, and gave decent minutes. I think a big with energy, who's able to run the floor, rebound, and just has a high motor is
Mhm.
someone who's going to give Embiid troubles because Embiid
Bro,
doesn't have the greatest motor himself. You know,
perfectly said because we've seen that, right? That we've seen that in the past with Al Horford, guys like him. Just energetic dudes that can defend, big long dudes that
run the
pause.
floor.
Um,
Hardenstein can't shoot, but he was hitting
right.
a few of those
Yeah.
midi floaters, and
Yeah.
so I like the Knicks as currently constructed, bro. I say all this to say I had the Sixers as a fake contender. I think they need to make another move, and I think they will. I think they have the pieces to probably make another move because of all the things they received from the Clippers in the James Harden trade. I
Mhm.
think they need another piece. They need someone like a Pascal Siakam, right?
Big name.
I don't know about a Zach Levine, but they need someone like that because if you're relying on Embiid and Tyrese to play amazing every game,
Mhm.
I can't see it. I can't see it.
Say they don't get a guy like Pascal, bro, like a 20 and 6 and 5 guy a night. Like, what if they got like a Patrick Williams or somebody like that who can just defend offensively, isn't really that gifted, very spotty. Uh, they need that two-way.
Who? Okay, is he better than Kelly Oubre?
No, I don't think so.
No,
He's a lot
no.
younger.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a team, if we're talking about contending this season, I think somebody like Patrick Williams, there's nothing he's going to do for the Sixers that's going to elevate them. He's not better than they're starting small forwards, in my opinion, right now. If
He
if
reminds me of off-brand OG Anunoby. That's why I meant. That's the first thing. You
okay.
know what I
See,
mean?
see, for me, if you're asking me,
Hmm.
they need another star. I do
Yeah.
think so because I also think because Embiid, as great as he is, because he's a big
Hmm.
and he's not necessarily like Jokic in the sense where even though he's averaging 6 assists, and Nick Nurse has to get a lot of credit for that, for putting him in positions to make plays. If they double him in the post, he can swing it out to shooters. I give Nick Nurse a lot of credit. Embiid's passing has been better this season, maybe at its best this season.
Hmm.
Even despite saying this, if you're running your offense through him, I think obviously it's just easier to have a defense play against a big versus a
Hmm.
wing or guard in today's NBA. So if you take certain things away from Embiid, if you double him consistently, I think they need another star to take the pressure off of him and Maxi.
Hmm.
Tobias is not the one. He's just not it. Tobias is just not it. So I think they need a star. Role players, not so much. They need another high end star for them to
Hmm.
contend. And if they don't get that, this is all good and well, but it's another second round exit, bro. We talked about the contenders. We'll see how it shakes out for the rest of the season. We'll monitor the contenders and let's see if our opinion changes, bro. But as hoop fans, right? Obviously, we're huge fans of the game. We love NBA basketball. For this season, who has been? Give me one of two of your favorite teams to watch this season. Like who has been? Give me one of them first.
Denver, bro. Denver. That's. I mean, no hesitation. Denver. Like whenever they're on, I'm watching them. Whether it be League Pass, ESPN, I'm tuned in, bro. I think it's safe to say Jokic is my favorite player. It's
What
different.
about Jokic makes him your favorite player, bro?
Bro, it's passing.
Okay.
100% is passing. That soundboard shuffle, I love it.
Okay.
Bro, he's a hybrid. I mean, he's a hybrid of like Dirk, Larry,
Dirk,
maybe
Larry,
Moses Malone with the ability to get the
Moses.
taps and the rebound. Oh,
Kevin Love, oh Minnesota Timberwolves,
yeah,
Kevin Love, maybe.
yeah, yes, sprinkle some Kevin Love in there. The passing though, bro, it's like I don't know, it's just different. I've never, we talk about player comparisons a lot. With him, bro, I feel like he's just his own archetype. You know what I mean? He's just a different player, and he does it with like, bro. He doesn't need to score. You know what I mean? Like the game against the Pistons, like, I think he had 4 points, bro. He shot like 3 times, and I saw an interesting post on social media, and they said that against teams like Detroit, he doesn't want to shoot. Like he could go and get 25, 30, 35, but like what for what? You know what I mean? For what? He's gonna win by facilitating, getting his teammates involved, and you might see Michael Porter have his best game against them, or you might see our Aaron Gordon score, 25. But
But to give some background on that game that you're talking about against the Pistons, Jokic had 4.7 rebounds, 16 assists, and 5 blocks in only 24 minutes of play, bro, against
five
the
blocks.
Pistons. Now, again, it's the Pistons, the worst team, possibly the worst team in NBA history if things can continue for them. But I get what you're saying in terms of Jokic being able to just dominate a game in so many different facets. I love watching Jokic as well because, like you said, it's just he has mastered the game in,
Yeah.
in terms of like whenever he turns the ball over, I'm shocked. Like I'm absolutely shocked. And if he does turn the ball over, a lot of times it was his teammate's fault.
Hmm.
Like maybe his teammate didn't do something correctly because it seems like no matter what happens, if he sets the screen on Jamal Murray and he gets the roll and he gets hit in the short roll, he's gonna find Aaron Gordon for the lob.
Hmm.
Or if you play Aaron Gordon for the lob, he's gonna find KCP.
Christian Braun
He's
or
gonna
Brown.
find Christian Brown,
Well,
KCP. Who else is who's the youngin that they got now, the athletic forward? What's his name?
Payne Watson.
Peyton Watson. Like he's gonna find him for a three. He
Yeah.
just make, or if you don't step up to him, he's gonna hit his little floater in the lane.
Hmm.
Or if you throw it down to him in the post, he has great footwork, great up fakes. He has a large body where he can back you down. So he's an amazing player. And I like how you said his comparisons is like Larry Bird mixed with
Yeah,
Dirk
bro.
Nowitzki, mixed with Minnesota Kevin Love,
Hmm.
mixed with Moses Malone. Like we've never seen him. He's a mixture of so many players. And last thing I'll say, they've constructed, obviously they won a championship last season. They've constructed like a great core around his skills.
Hmm.
Like the players they have around him they fit his skill set so well, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're obviously my favorite team because of him, but I like Mike Malone. I think he's a heck of a coach. I like Jamal Murray. I think he's one of the more underrated guards we've probably seen in the last 10, 15 years. I don't know if he'll ever be an all-star, bro. Like I just think he'll definitely like when it's all said and done, he'll be probably one of Denver's all-time leading scorers, like in franchise history. But I don't think he's gonna have the accolades to really, that really speak to how good he was, if that makes sense. So, aside from Jokic, bro, they just got a bunch of guys that can play, that know how to play with him, that know where to be. Um, I think he probably revamped Aaron Gordon's career a little bit, when he got to Denver.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, bro, like when he was in Orlando, he wasn't really, I mean, a couple playoffs, but I mean, he was the dunker, dunk contest participant. That's what we knew him as. And as the highlight film. But he turned him into a dog, like a legit like player. Um, I think guys like KCP who might have obviously been overshadowed by the huge names in LA and in the beginning when he was with Detroit, like he was an average role player, right? But now he's kind of glorified a little bit. He's in because Jokic, bro. So that's not to take anything away from these guys. I mean, they're obviously pro athletes, they're NBA guys, they're talented, but bro, Jokic just he makes everybody better.
Yep.
It's proven. Um,
I
so
agree. I agree with you, bro. I definitely understand that him being the driving force of why they're a favorite team for you to watch, and you're a Denver Nuggets fan. I will say this because I want to say this before we move to my one of my teams.
mhm,
I don't want at the end of the season, or because the Denver Nuggets, they're going to have a great playoff run. Whether or not they win a championship, we don't know yet. If they
mhm,
will win a championship, we don't know yet. But they'll have a deep playoff run, assuming everyone stays healthy.
mhm,
And I'm sure Jamal Murray is going to be hooping in the playoffs. And what I do not want to see from all these media outlets and sources is Jamal Murray is in his such and such season and he's still not an all-star. How can this be? I don't want to see those posts, bro. Because I'm gonna tell you why he's never been an all-star. Because Jamal Murray can never stay healthy enough in a regular season to play enough
yeah,
games. And he's never really healthy enough to he's never there's a reason we say playoff Jamal Murray. Like I think that's a thing. Like it's playoff Jamal Murray is a thing. It's because he brings his game when it matters most. But during
mhm,
the regular season, he's either too banged up, and
mhm,
I believe the type of guard that he is, where his game is predicated on him hitting a lot of tough shots. He's not the most athletic type of guy.
mhm,
His game is predicated similar like to a Kyrie or something like that, where he has to hit a lot of tough shots to be effective. And I think over the course of a regular season, it's hard to do that
mhm.
and remain at the top of your game versus the playoffs where you kind of are dialed in, you're focused, and different things like that. That's
Yeah,
why he's not an all-star. Even this season, bro, out of 42 games that he could have played, he's only played 26 games. Now he's averaging 20 points, 6 assists. So he's putting up decent numbers, but
mhm.
again, it's his health. So we know why he hasn't been an all-star in his career. Let's not have those posts later. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
bro, and also, like, let's be honest, he exists in a league where the Western Conference guards, bro, were just
They're
stacked, like, left and
stacked.
right for the past I mean, it's been like that forever, but, I
Yeah.
mean, since he came in the league, bro, he's ran into, obviously, Steph. I mean, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, like, De'Aaron Fox, like,
Dame.
Dame, bro, like,
John
what
Morant. So it's tough to make it in the West. He's good enough. He's an all-star caliber player, but
sure.
there are clear reasons why he has never been an all-star. For me, this season to start off, uh, I gotta go with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Wow.
They're one of my favorite teams to watch this
Mhm,
season for a number of reasons. First of all, I think that Giannis is having a very, very, very underrated MVP season. Like to the point where I don't feel like people discuss him enough in the MVP race. Let's just peep his numbers real quick. Right now, as of this recording, he's averaging 31.3 points a game, 11.4 rebounds, and 5.8 assists. He's shooting 60% from the field. Like Giannis is having a monster season. Now, in the last few games, I believe they're like 5-5 in their last 10 games as of
mhm,
this recording. So they've been a little shaky, and some of that is because of their defense. We've seen the Bucks play the Pacers, and they've had trouble guarding like really good offensive teams. And
Mhm.
some of that is because they lost Drew Holiday.
Mhm.
Everyone's a year older. Guys like Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, even Pat Connaughton. So it's an older roster. And they brought in outside of they got rid of Drew Holiday, they brought in Dame, who's obviously a defensive liability if we're just keeping it a stack, right? But I say all this to say this. Number one, Giannis is having an underrated MVP season, caliber season right now, right? So I've enjoyed watching him play alongside a guard like Dame, right? Because it's like this. When I watch the Bucks play, I wish and I want them to keep putting the ball in Dame's hands, right? And I love seeing the Dame and Giannis pick and roll. When Dame goes into the pick and roll with either Giannis or Brook Lopez, and you see defenses have to blitz the pick and roll, they have to blitz. You have to. You can't play drop against Dame because if he comes off the pick and roll and the big is in the drop, he's lighting you up from three. Okay.
Cash.
Even though he's not having the greatest shooting season so far, you have to respect Dame off his reputation. So you got to blitz that screen. When you blitz this screen, he has Giannis rolling in the short roll. And if Giannis gets the ball, he's either going to dribble and dunk on someone, or he's going to dribble, the help comes, and he makes the open play to an open shooter. When he has Brook Lopez, he can play the pick and roll or the pick and pop. I've enjoyed seeing that this season because as good as Drew Holiday was, I don't think teams had to respect him offensively like you do a guy like Dame. So those are I like seeing Giannis have his season. I like how Giannis and Dame have been playing off of each other, Giannis, Dame, and Brook Lopez.
Mhm.
And also I enjoy seeing Dame on a team that has a chance.
Mhm.
Right. Like I think we have to consider the Bucks a contender. I enjoy seeing Dame on a team that has a chance because I think he's someone who probably doesn't have but so many seasons left in his career. And I just want to see him contend. And I like his fit with the Bucks so far. Obviously, I'm a Laker fan, and
Yeah. It's a
we're
little
under
rough over
five.
there.
We're under 500 right as of this recording, and we stink. So I'm not gonna say too much about the Los Angeles Lakers right now. Moving on though, let's keep it up, man. As Hoop fans, give me two players who you're rocking with, no matter what, and you don't care about the narrative, what people have to say about them,
Mhm.
maybe even their production at times. Who give me two players who you're rocking with no matter what, bro.
I'm gonna change it up a little bit. I spoke heavy on Jokic. He's obviously my favorite player, so I think it's probably known, by you and at least that I'm rocking with him no matter the narrative.
And it's pretty
I'm
easy to rock
backing.
with him right now, too, if we're being
Yeah,
clear. He's the champion.
I'm backing my guy, but I think I spoke enough on him,
Okay.
um, bro. I'm gonna go with a guy named Brandon Ingram.
Aye.
He
Ah,
last
you shot me with this one.
last 3 years, he's he really opened my eyes a little bit to his game, and we saw him do it, glimpses and hints that he was going to be a good player. I think he's still working out some inconsistencies, but and health is a major player as well. But dude, he's got it all. He's super talented. I just think it's going to be up to him how good he wants to be.
Okay.
Um, and that the sky's the limit, really. I mean, he's getting to that. I think he's about 26, 27. I think he's about a year younger than me. We were in the same class, but I've kind of always kept up with his game a little bit. So, um, yeah, dude, he's a dog. He's a dog. I just think that, a lot of people see New Orleans. I don't think they get enough credit, but I think he's a driving force on that team. Him and Zion are obviously the two alphas on that team.
Okay.
But I rock with him, bro. I think I told you before. I mean, he's like a hybrid to me of Kobe and KD. You know what I
That's
mean?
a
That's high
hot.
praise. That's
That's a
high praise,
hot.
bro.
That's a hot take, bro. And when you told me this, because me and Matt, we go back and forth. We love the NBA so much. We go back and forth and talk. When you said that to me, and we were watching the Pelicans, I forgot who we were watching them play at that time, and
Hmm.
he was having a really good game. I thought about it and I said, okay, I like the comparison. I still got to think about it. I
Hmm.
like that take though, in terms of because obviously, if you're saying BI, right? He's thin and lanky like KD, right?
Hmm.
So he has the long limbs. His jumper is high over, so he shoots over a lot of players. Not the 3-point shooter that KD is. He's not the shooter in general that KD is, but he's still a tough shot maker. And then his game specifically, I think it has some Kobe-esque
Hmm.
attributes to it where he has the turnaround jump shot in the post, right? He can get to the basket and finish over the top. I don't know if he's necessarily the finisher in terms of layups like Kobe, but he has the mid range pull up. He has the pull up 3-pointer. So I saw where you were getting at with that, where you could say Bi is kind of like a mixture of Kobe and KD in
Hmm.
some way or form. Um, I like that though. You kind of shocked me with that pick. So what narrative do you think he faces that may be a negative thing against Brandon Ingram? Like what's a narrative
Yeah,
you think he has against him?
bro. What I've heard, is lazy, doesn't take the game as serious, maybe as he should. Very passive at times.
Mhm.
But bro, the eye test for me, at least, is kind of, that's kind of what I base it off of. And with him, bro, when once he got to New Orleans, and I saw his game progress throughout the past 3.5 years. Um, I saw him operate at that mid range, bro. I saw him kind of get surgical with it. Um, you
He
know,
is surgical with it, boy.
bro,
He's
he
surgical with it.
pump fakes. You know what I mean? He's got the footwork. I watched the podcast with him about a year ago. And he said he was watching MJ footage like throughout the whole summer. I think he's very quiet in the media. A lot of times, quiet superstars don't get. I think historically they just people
They can
always.
get overlooked. They can get overlooked.
Yes, yes, and people question them, right? Because they're not in the spotlight. They're not emotional dudes that we know on the court. They're not, maybe they don't come off as the leaders that we think they should be. But I think he has all those intangibles. I think that he's obviously talented. The question isn't his talent. So I mean, we'll see. But I'm rocking with him, bro. And he's a guy I forget I rock with sometimes. You know what I mean? But it's weird. Like, well, you asked me that question, I'm like, I rock with him, bro, and I defend him. And I know you like that squad too. So I'm
Yeah,
curious.
and
I'm
I
curious.
think, and I'm glad you brought him up, right? Because it's going to lead into I'll give one of my favorite players that I rock with, no matter and he has a huge narrative against him. But to put a cap on I like that. One thing that I learned about him from his personality, in terms what I learned from that JJ Redick interview from his podcast, The Old Man and the Three, I learned how much of a hooper he is, how much of a student of the game he is, and how much he cares about winning, right?
Mhm,
And like you said, a lot of times with guys similar to Kawhi Leonard, who's my favorite player, the guys who are quiet and not as energetic on the court, I think as fans, we kind of sometimes, if you're not following them closely, you may think that they don't care about the game as much when it's quite literally the opposite. And even
mhm,
JJ Redick, who was a teammate of BI's on the Pelicans at one time, he always gave glowing reviews of BI and his preparation and his work ethic. So I think I like that. I like that one. That's going
mhm.
to lead into my favorite player, one of my favorite players to watch, and somebody who I rock with no matter the narrative, and he has a lot against him. Some justified, but it's Zion Williamson, bro.
Oh boy.
Zion Williamson. For me, I'm rocking with Zion Williamson heavy. And here's going to be a consistent theme for me. As a hoop fan, as an NBA fan, if we're in a barbershop and we're having debates, one thing I really don't want to talk about is injuries. I don't want to talk about injuries, bro. Now, sometimes it's justified. You have to kind of speak on a player's injury history to
Mhm,
give your takes. But I would really like to talk about what they do when they're healthy and on the floor. And when Zion is healthy and on the floor, he's going to give you 60% field goal percentage. He's going to give you someone who is a 6'6", 270-pound man child who's going to get the basketball, going to drive right or left, and he's going to finish over big men and score the majority of his points in the paint. He's always going to be a leader in paint points. He's a
mhm,
very, very, very underrated passer. I think Zion Williamson is one of the most underrated passers in the league because when I see him drive to the basket and big men do step up, the ones who are not scared to get banged on or have to feel that locomotive hitting them full force, the big men who do step up, guys like big men like Valanciunas and Larry Nance, they benefit from a lot of the pocket passes that Z throws.
mhm,
A lot of the shooters like Trey Murphy, BI, CJ McCollum, even Alvarado. because the paint has to collapse or the defense has to collapse on the Zion drive. He is a really good passer at hitting these shooters and getting them open shots. So for me, I'm rocking with Z, bro.
Mhm.
He's gonna give you 21, 22 points a game on 60% field goal and probably 3, 4, 5 assists. I'm rocking with Z. And you tell me what's the narrative against him?
Bro, I mean, there's a couple. I mean, the top two that come just straight to my mind, obviously, are that boy likes to eat, and it's gonna be, it's hard, bro. I mean, he's living in New Orleans. Probably
Gumbo.
cuisine is amazing down there. And that secondly, he's a freak, bro.
It's a
Boy's a
freak.
freak. I mean, it's certified now. I mean, we know this. We know this. But I don't think that's no, it's a huge thing, don't get me wrong. But I think that he looks to be I watched that game Friday when they played the Nuggets. And Friday that would have been what? The 12th, January 12th. They were the late West Coast, 10 p.m., excuse me. Bro, he halftime he had 6 points. End of the game with like 30 or 32. So, I mean, I don't know what his issue is. I don't know if it's a motor thing. I don't know if I think he loves the game. I wouldn't say he's like it's all he thinks about. You know what I mean? I think that he gets by on his freak athleticism. I think he is obviously very talented. You mentioned his underrated passing ability. Bro, I think collectively their team, they're kind of like an OKC. You know what I mean? They have it. It's just about can they put it together. Now they got a couple older guys. I think Valanciunas isn't young. CJ McCollum's obviously not young, but Herb Jones, Zion, and Brandon Ingram, bro, they're a crazy three to me. Like so, I
I agree. I agree. I mean, and I agree, bro. I think first of all, like you said, Zion, he's a freak, an athletic freak on the court, and off the court, clearly he be on some freaky shit as well. Um, you know, i.e., if you don't know Mariah Mills, I believe that was her name, the girl that he was dealing with or whatever. Um, and I understand some of the concern with Zion in terms of when you speak of food and women,
Mhm.
you can just put that in the category of distractions, right? Like he's still a young guy. I believe he's about 22, 23 years old. He did get his big deal, a 5 year, like $100 million deal. And a lot of his contract was based on certain incentives, right? For him to stay in shape, to him to play a certain amount of games every season, for him to have a certain percentage of body fat, right? So that speaks to maybe him not being as focused as a player as he should be. And I understand that criticism coming to him. My only point and why I rock with Zion so heavy is because let's speak about the game, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I think a lot of times they let that overshadow his production. Say what you want about Zion. He's a freak, loves women, eats a lot of food, probably isn't always in the best shape. The man's a walking 22-7 on 60% field goal percentage
On a bad night.
on a bad night,
Yeah.
right? And this season, I have been myself, I've been a little critical of him because I do feel like he should be in a little bit better shape. But regardless, the talent is there, the production is there. It's just can he sustain it so that this very talented Pelicans team that you just spoke of
Mhm.
can really make a deep run. So we're going to see. We're going to see. I think it'll be interesting. So for me and you to say Bi and Zion, let's finish it with this. Do you think that those two are compatible with each other? Because I do see a lot of fans say that for them to both reach their peaks as players, it may not be together.
I mean, I get that point. Um, I mean, bro, with duos, we have Batman and Robin, right? So for me, it's gonna be like I think Zion. I don't know if he's ready to be Batman, bro. I don't know if Bi can be Robin, but they're gonna have to figure that out. Um, or and vice versa. I mean, I might have that completely wrong. But it looks.
Maybe
I mean,
Bi.
yeah, Bi might be the alpha on that team. I don't know. But from what I'm seeing, Zion. If I was a betting man, bro, he would be, um, the number one option on that team. But I think Bi has more to his game. I mean, he has more wiggle. He has more ability. Um, Yeah, bro. I mean, right now they're sixth, right? They're 24 and 16, one game winning streak. They're 4 games behind first place. So, I mean, obviously the West is tough. We're gonna see kind of what they have, obviously, second half of the season. But I don't know, bro. I mean, it's kind of like now or never. I don't think CJ McCollum has a lot of years left.
Yeah, I think CJ McCollum is someone who I think he's someone who could be replaced for years down the line. For me, I think this best case scenario for the Pelicans, I think it can work between Zion and Bi.
Think so.
Because I think best case scenario, you're looking at a situation similar to Giannis and Chris Middleton
Hmm.
when they won in 2021,
Hmm.
right? You have the athletic freak who uh attacks the paint, scores a lot of rim points, and is just a freak that really you have the game plan for. Then you have the 6'8", 6'7", 6'9" shot maker, creator who you can go to in crunch time and Bi, similar to Chris Middleton. So I think best case scenario, if Zion can somehow get his level of focus and intensity and consistency and passion for the game,
Hmm.
and preparation for the game, like a Giannis Antetokounmpo, Bi is already a better version of a Chris Middleton
Hmm.
in a sense. If Zion can reach that level, I think we'll see the Pelicans really make deep runs and really contend for a championship. Because if Zion can do that, they have everything else. CJ McCollum, you have shooters, you have a wing shooter, an offensive minded wing, and Trey Murphy, who quiet as kept, bro. Talent wise, we're gonna see about him in the next couple of years. Probably be being better than what a lot of people think.
Hmm.
Herb Jones on the defensive end, being an amazing defensive wing player. Great off the bench guard like Alvarado. The shooter Jordan Hawkins, who just had 30 this past
Oh,
week.
tough.
Super tough. So they have talent, Larry Nance and Valachunas. So they have everything. It's really up to Zion to and Willie Green to be the best coach that he can be, and we'll see where they'll go. So we'll keep it locked. But Zion and Bi was good choices as players to watch, right? I love watching the Pelicans in general. They would have been my second team in terms of a favorite team to watch. Lastly, bro, we can finish up this podcast, and with this Hoop Fans podcast, we're not just always going to talk about the current NBA season. We're going to talk about some nostalgic things and historical players and past events, things like that as well. So I wanted to finish this with I seen that Penny Hardaway and Vince Carter were they're nominated for the 2024 Hall of Fame, correct? Did you see that,
Mhm.
bro?
Yep. Yep.
So I wanted to ask, let's just keep it a bean. Let's start with let's start with Vince. Is Vince
Oh,
worthy enough to be a Hall of Famer? Was his career worthy enough to be a Hall of Famer?
yeah. I'm gonna say he's getting in. He's a Hall of Famer. Yeah, for sure. At this point, I think that, bro, the Hall of Fame, the criteria is like, I feel like it changes player to player. You know what I mean? Like Vince checks off boxes. Vince checks off that 20K mark. You know what I mean?
That's
20K
a lot of
point.
buckets.
It's a lot of buckets, bro. But he's also had, like, I feel like that man had like 3 careers, 4 careers within his whole 20, 21 year span. You look the first half, bro, when he was in Toronto. Like, if he could sustain that for like years longer, I think we're looking at, bro. The conversation changes in terms of shooting guards. He's the top. If Toronto Vince, bro, averaging 24, 25 a game, sustained for 12, 13 years,
Well, yeah, we
he's
we we having a different conversation
yeah.
about who
But
he is.
early on his career, he is when he put his numbers up. Later on, like after, I think he probably had like three good years in New Jersey. Then it was,
I say
downhill.
this for Vince, bro. To piggyback off your point, he came in and he lit the league on fire
Hot. Yeah, just came in
soon as
hot.
soon as he came into the league. I mean, he came in the same year as the lockout. So
Hmm.
where the teams only played 50 games in 98, 99. So
Right.
he came in averaging 18 a game. And I remember as a fan at that time, I was only 3 or 4. And
Hmm.
one of my earliest memories, bro, I have two early memories as it goes to Vince Carter. I remember my uncle telling me who Vince Carter was, and this was that season, his rookie season, when he was just lighting everything ablaze. I was 3 years old. That's one of my earliest memories. And I have a very vivid memory of the 2000 slam dunk contest.
Really.
And yes, bro, as
Wow.
a fan, I was 5 years old, and my father, I was with my dad. He was watching the dunk contest, And every time Vince did something, and probably also Tracy McGrady and Steve Francis, but every time Vince did a dunk, one of those iconic dunks that we see on Twitter all the time,
Uh-huh.
he was saying, "Yo, that was nasty. Ew." And at the time, I'm only 5, bro. So I have no idea why he is saying it's so disgusting. And so I'm
Uh-huh.
like, why is he saying this is nasty? What is nasty? What is nasty? As a 5-year-old, I'm thinking that, like, why is he saying ill? But I remember my dad watching that contest. So I say this to say this. When it comes to Vince Carter, like you say, he cracks the 20K points. He has some iconic moments in NBA history when you
He
talk
does.
about his dunk contest, his dunk in the 2000 Olympics, when he dunked over the French ball.
Yeah. Shout out to
Um,
I think his name something
some Weiss, I believe his
Weiss.
last
Yeah,
name was Weiss.
Frederick Weiss, I think.
We know his name
Because of that.
because Vince Carter jumped over him, bro. That's the reason me and you know his name as hoop fans right now.
Yeah, bro.
That that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, he has a really, really obscure career, in my opinion, like where, like we talked about, he was hot early on, but career, like accolades outside the dunk contest and the gold medal. I think he's an 8-time All-Star. We can check the stat, like to check the basketball
Eight-time
reference.
All-Star. He's 8-time All-Star.
Like a 2-time All-NBA player, not a lot. I think he was probably all rookie of the year in
He won
98,
Rookie of the Year.
99. And that's it, bro. 20K points. You know, he's obviously like a top 50 scorer ever, but it's because he played 21 years. So, but he meets the criteria for me. If we're gonna put a guy like we'll just talk about like long careers like Robert Parrish, minus the championships, they pound for pound have a similar. Actually, no, they don't. Robert Parrish, bro, he has some. No, he has.
Robert Parrish was all right. I say
Yeah,
this. I say this. He's definitely a Hall of Famer. And
yeah,
I think we have to also be clear and educate some hoop fans in this. The Hall of Fame is not just the NBA. And I think maybe
right,
that's the conversation me and you should also have is
right.
in further future episodes where the Hall of Fame encompasses your entire basketball career. So that's high school,
Hmm.
college, and the NBA. It's not just your NBA career. So with everything, I think that gold medal is super important for him.
Yes, so.
I think him having a gold medal in 2000, so him being a gold medal Olympian, also him cracking the 20K points, him
Hmm.
being an 8-time All-Star, slam dunk contest champion, rookie of the year. I think there's no question Vince Carter's a Hall of Famer. I think we can really have no argument. And I think when you talk about players that maybe have embodied an era, he has to be one of the first 10 to 15 guys you think of when you think of the span from 2000 to 2010. I,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think Vince Carter comes up. I think he has to come up.
yeah.
So for sure. So let's move on to the next guy,
Okay.
Penny Hardaway. Do you think he is worthy? And we'll do this with him. Is he a Hall of Famer based on the current criteria, which is his whole basketball career? And would he be a Hall of Famer if there was a such thing as just an NBA Hall of Fame? What do you think, bro?
Oh man, Anthony Penny Hardaway. I don't know, bro. Like I go back and forth, right? So like when we first did our initial outline of this, I'm like, yeah, bro, Penny Hardaway's a lock in my mind. Basketball fanatic.
For which one?
He's
For the
It's a
basketball
basketball
for
Hall
the
of
for the
Famer.
current one? Okay, okay,
Just
okay,
basketball.
okay.
Because his NBA career doesn't check out, in my opinion.
Mm.
Um, and I may be contradicting myself a little bit as I go on, but bro, Penny, arguably from '94 to '98, was top 5 NBA players, global. You know what I mean? Yeah, and the only 3 guys I can like maybe think that come to mind that were widely known, more than him, Mike, Shaq, and maybe Carl, bro. Carl Malone, maybe.
He said Carl.
Or maybe like Sean Kemp or Gary Payton, or maybe Charles Barkley. But
Yeah, Charles Barkley. But those were guys were older. If we're talking
right,
about young
right,
players, there really
yes.
wasn't a young player outside of maybe what Grant
Grant Hill, yeah, he's another one.
that were as popular as Penny.
But yeah, bro, and I think he brought back a style that only really before we had seen Magic, that big point guard, 6'7", 6'8" point guard. He was destined for greatness, bro. He was, but injuries.
Injury.
said
Mm.
otherwise. But um, I wish his NBA career checked out so we could put him in an NBA Hall of Fame if there was such thing. But I think his overall basketball resume checks out. I think that he did some things, and when he was at Memphis State, I think he was like an All American there.
Yeah,
He's got a
Memphis. He
gold,
was at Memphis. Yeah,
yeah, he's got a gold medal in
he has a gold
'96.
medal.
I'm gonna speak on something, bro, that kind of gets swept under the rug, but he arguably, behind Mike, has the greatest signature sneaker line ever,
This is where we get in your bag. This is your bag.
bro. The Air Pennies hit the streets in the '90s, bro, harder than any other shoe not named Air Jordan, bro. He was iconic, bro, for that youth. For anyone born in from 1980 to 1990, bro, those kids looked up at him as this is the guy, bro. So I think he's fresh in the minds of those who are maybe not making the decisions to go in the Hall of Fame. Maybe they're not quite there yet, but those I don't know who's in charge, bro. I don't know who the board is to get people in who get voting and all that, but um, I think they recognize Penny as
I
one of
think he'll
the top.
make it. I think
Yeah,
he'll make it. I do think he'll make it the Hall of Fame. I think he'll make the
yeah,
Naismith Hall of Fame. Based on his basketball career, like you said, he has a gold medal as well. He was an iconic member, and his NBA career, though where he was at the peak of his powers, was a short run. I mean, when you look at it, it's like four-time NBA All-Star. Like he was another player like Vince who hit the ground running as soon as he got
right.
to the league. He made the finals with Shaq in his second season.
Crazy.
Um, and he was kind of one of those players, like you said, that helped fill the void when Mike was out when he retired the first time. Excuse
Hmm.
me, when he retired the first time and was playing baseball, he was one of the young players that was helping fill the
Right.
void along with Shaq and Grant Hill. So, I mean, based on that alone, four-time All Star, two-time All NBA first team, All NBA third team, won an NBA, excuse me, won a gold medal and went to the NBA Finals with averaging 20 and 7 at his peak when big point guards doing that wasn't really the
Yeah,
thing
bro.
yet. Like it's not like it is today.
Yeah.
I think basketball wise, he's a Hall of Famer. And
Hmm.
and if before looking up his resume, because remember we're younger, so we didn't necessarily see it firsthand. But when looking up his resume, I was like, well, dang, he's worthy
Right.
of the Hall of Fame. If it was just an NBA Hall of Fame based on his NBA career and his numbers,
Yeah.
his numbers is what 15-5. It just depends. It just depends on how stringent you are as a judge.
Hmm.
You know,
Right, bro. It does. It comes down to like
what's
who's
your
making
who
these
how
calls.
who do you let in? You know
Right.
what I mean? So it's tough. So I think they're both worthy Hall of Famers. Definitely Vince. Definitely Vince. I think there's no question that Vince is a Hall of Famer. Um, Penny, I think will make it and deservingly so. So I mean, I think that's dope, right? I think, one of the things that I loved about the Hall of Fame every year about the guys getting in is like it gives fans and supporters of the game a chance to really go back and really check out guys' resumes and really see what they accomplished during their career. So
Hmm.
much respect to Vince Carter and Penny Hardaway. Bro, I think this has been a dope episode, man. I got a lot to edit, but I think this has been a super dope episode one of the Hoop Fans podcast, man. But man, great episode, bro.
For sure, man. Kicking off the inaugural Hoop Fans podcast, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Well, that's episode 1, man. I'm K Rose. It's my boy Matt. We'll holler at y'all. Peace.